We don't have too many things to go over before we hop into the first game of the episode, but we do have one thing, and that is that Willie Calhoun is probably going to be out for the rest of the year. He has a torn groin, so he's going to be on the 60-day IL, and he'll just be probably missing the rest of the season. It's probably going to work as an upgrade for us because he was very, very bad this season, a 643 OPS, so let's just reset it, Willie, and come back next year and hopefully be more like your 2020 self. The Texas Rangers playing host to the Chicago White Sox here at Globe Life Field, and on the hill for the Rangers is the lefty Kolby Allard, returned from his injury, making his 7th start of the 2021 campaign, and we'll start things off top half of the first inning. It's Mookie Betts at the dish, going up the middle. That's going to get in between the two outfielders, but it is cut off, but Betts still has himself a double with 2 outs in the first inning. Then it will bring up Eloy Jimenez with his red batting gloves as he goes up the middle, lands in center field. That's going to be an RBI single for Jimenez. He is then gunned down at second base, trying to stretch it into a double, so a 1-0 lead. Now in the top of the third inning, it's going to be Vargas drawing himself a walk, so then with 2 outs in the inning, it's going to be Yoan Moncada hitting a ball to left center field. He's going gapping. That's going to score the run. It's an RBI double for Yoan Moncada, and the White Sox have themselves a 2-0 lead. Michael Kopech, making his 3rd start of the year, has spent some time in the pen, now making a start for the Sox, his 3rd of the season, like I said. And in the bottom half of the 4th inning, Michael Brosseau is going to greet him with a left center field shot off the bottom of the wall, and he's in second base to lead off the inning. Next batter up is Yoenis Cespedes, who's going to pop one up to right field. It's going to be caught by Betts, and Brosseau, being very, very risky, is going to try to tag up, and the throw is offline, so he's over on third with 1 out. Ronald Guzman would then pulverize a pitch into the right field seats, a 2-run blast. Hopefully that's what Guzman needed to get his season going. So it's a 2-2 ball game. Bottom of the 6th now is Michael Brosseau is going to ground one up the middle for a base knock to lead off the inning. Next batter up, Yoenis Cespedes hits an absolute rocket into left field. That's going to land in for a single as well. So it's back-to-back base knocks. Dylan Cease will then come on to replace Michael Kopech. And it's going to be Ronald Guzman at the plate again. This time he's going to slap one into left field. Brosseau rounding third, heading home, throw offline, and it's a 3-2 lead for the Rangers. So runners on the corners for Sam Huff, and he's going to hit a ball to deep left field, but it's going to be caught at the track. Will tag up and score a run over at third as Cespedes scores. It's now a 4-2 game. As we move things on to the top of the 7th, Allard hangs a pitch, and Yasmani Grandal hits this one all the way back to Chicago, as that's going to be a 1-run ball game now, as Grandal's home run makes it a 4-3 game. Nick Goody would then come out of the pen to replace Allard, and he would proceed to get out of the inning as he gets a ground ball over to the shortstop Terang, who makes a diving stop and flips to the covering second baseman at second base for the final out. So then, bottom half of the 7th, it's Leody Taveras. A wall scraper into right field, a solo shot for Taveras. It's now a 2-run lead again. Brett Martin then came on looking for the save in the 9th. So with a Ryan Braun in the batter's box, he's going to hit one into right center field. That's going to get down into the gap, up against the wall, and the old man has himself a leadoff double. After that, it's going to be Vargas at the dish. He's going to hit one into right field. Braun's going to score from second, and it's now a 1-run ball game as Brett Martin have some issues here in the 9th inning. After that, it would bring up Mendick, and he almost gives the White Sox a lead right here, but it just barely slices foul. He even thought it was fair, and then he would proceed to ground out the next pitch up the middle. And it's going to be a 4-6-3 double play started by the flip from Solak, and that's going to be a 5-4 win for the Texas Rangers as they hold on. Brett Martin gets the save and gets Kolby Allard the win here over the White Sox. Ronald Guzman gets player of the game honors. He had 2 hits on the day, a home run and also an RBI single, as the Rangers win this one as Kolby Allard goes 6 1/3, and it is enough to top the White Sox. And we have arrived at one of the best parts of the season, the trade deadline. We are yet again out of it at the deadline, so we are looking upon the next season, trying to make trades to improve the future of our team. So without further ado, let's hop straight into going over these trades. The first one we made was Arodys Vizcaino to the Arizona Diamondbacks in return for infielder Michael Ahmed, right-handed relief pitcher in Merrill Kelly. And the D-backs are a team that are in the playoff hunt. They need bullpen help. Arodys Vizcaino is a guy who can help their bullpen, so that's pretty self-explanatory. Michael Ahmed is a Massachusetts guy through and through. He went to East Longmeadow High School, played college ball at Holy Cross. He's a guy who can play all over the infield. He's got a good bat. He's a decent fielder. He's a guy who could end up being like a solid, like late 20s guy who ends up in our major league team at some point. We have a few of these guys at this point, but he is one of the guys who we do have an option to have that. And then there is Merrill Kelly, who is a multi-inning bullpen arm. He was pitching well for the D-backs last season and even in his limited time this season, but they just refused to use him for the rest of the year, so I mean, we're just going to take him off their hands. He's also only a D potential, so he doesn't really have much value, but he has been effective when he has pitched in the big leagues. Moving on to the next trade, which was Danny Santana to the Miami Marlins in return for infielder Gosuke Kato and left-handed reliever Alex Vesia. Santana did what I was hoping he would do, and he has been hitting very well recently, so he's been on a tear, so we're going to take advantage of that and try to get some trade out of him, and we did that. And with this trade to the Marlins, as the Marlins are a team that is competing, they are currently in first place in the NL East, and it's probably earlier than they expected in their plans, so they probably don't want to make any like huge trades, trading away like their whole farm for somebody. So Danny Santana, I just feel like makes sense. You know, 2 C potential guys for an extremely versatile bat that can be very good in your lineup is probably a improvement to their team. Well, Kato, for us, is a guy who can play all over the infield. He's a solid fielder, good contact bat, good plate skills, has some speed, definitely a guy to keep our eye on, as a guy who could end up being either like a starting second baseman or like a backup infielder up for us at the major league level. And then there's Vesia, who is a hard-throwing left-handed reliever. Will probably end up being one of the relievers we use next season, as we tend to do this thing where we just call people up and down all year long, and he is a guy who is prime for that strategy. Then there's the next trade. We move into some of the bigger stuff, where Charlie Morton was sent to the Los Angeles Angels in return for Deshaun Knowles to the Texas Rangers. Morton having a great season. Angels are one of the few teams in the league that could use another starter at this point, so it's pretty self-explanatory. We gave them Charlie Morton. We get Deshaun Knowles, who is a 20-year-old switch-hitting B-potential outfielder. He will eventually be getting a prospect profile, so we're not going to dive too deep into his stats, but that is what you know about him now, 20-year-old switch-hitting B-potential outfielder. Then on the next starting pitcher trade, Lance Lynn, this is a big one. We got a pretty good haul in return for Lance Lynn and Mark Payton to the Chicago White Sox in return for right-handed starter Matthew Thompson, left-handed starter Connor Pilkington, catcher Yerman Mercedes. And obviously, Lance Lynn is a very solid starter. The White Sox are one of the very few teams that need starters. And then Payton is just in there to make the trade work, while the White Sox get a Major League-ready outfielder with a ton of team control in Mark Payton. We get Matthew Thompson, who is a 20-year-old B-potential starter. He will probably end up getting a prospect profile at some point. Connor Pilkington is a 23-year-old B-potential starter from Mississippi State. He's probably not going to get a prospect profile, but we are going to be doing a minor league update here very soon, so he will be getting gone over more in that episode when we have that episode. And then there's Yerman Mercedes, who is going to step in immediately as the backup catcher slash first baseman slash DH option. He's 28 years old, lots of pop in his bat, and the White Sox are just not using him because they've got Zach Collins, and they've also got Yasmani Grandal, and they have a few other guys in minor leagues as well, so they don't need Yerman Mercedes, so we will gladly take him as a part of this deal. And like I mentioned, there was a lot of teams that didn't need starting pitching help, so the White Sox, being a fringe playoff team, not usually someone I would try to do a big trade like this with, but I mean, they were one of the few teams that needed help. There was obviously the Angels. We gave them Morton. The Red Sox, the Yankees, and the Rays don't need starting pitching, the big three in the AL East. The Twins are absolutely stacked in their rotation. They don't need help. The Astros could probably use a starter, but they don't really have any prospects anymore, and especially prospects that I'm interested in. While the Cubs are the same deal. They just really don't have many prospects at all at the moment. The Nationals don't need starting pitching help. The Dodgers don't need starting pitching help. The D-backs don't need starting pitching help. They don't need to trade their whole farm for a guy when they've already got 4 solid starters. Some of these teams, yeah, maybe their 5th guy is only like a 78 overall, but teams aren't going to go and trade and so they can have a 5-man rotation. Like, teams only use 4 guys, sometimes even 3 guys in the playoffs anyways. So because of that, we ended up settling with the White Sox, who are a fringe team, but they do have a legit shot at getting into the playoffs, so hopefully they're able to do that now that they have Lance Lynn helping out their cause. And we ended up making another trade with the D-backs because they are in a weird spot where they're in first place in the NL West, but they have Starling Marte and Cole Calhoun who are out long-term for them. So they need bats to help. Those 2 guys have recently gotten injured, and Cespedes and Avila are both bats that can help. Alvia, whatever the fuck that guy's name is, I don't even give a shit at this point. It's somebody else's job to pronounce his name now. In return, we get infielder Blaze Alexander, right-handed starter Bo Takahashi, and outfielder Trace Thompson. Alexander is a 21-year-old infielder with a C potential. He needs work with the bat, but he has an absolute rocket arm, and he's a guy who will be developing in our minor leagues for a couple seasons. Bo Takahashi is a solid Major League-ready right-handed starter, 24 years old, C potential. He's Brazilian, and he's going to get some starts for us post-deadline, so we'll see how he fares in those starts. While Trace Thompson is Klay Thompson's brother, and he was purely in the deal to make the money work. He's just a depth guy in the minors for us. He's probably gone after this season. And then we went and made one more trade, and that is Didi Gregorius. We decided to do the dump-off trade with him. I mentioned last episode that we can trade Didi for something good, but we're not going to abuse the game's trade AI like every single other person who makes YouTube videos would do. I do not do that. It makes no sense to trade a guy who has been hitting like pure garbage all season for some good prospect just because the game will allow you to do that. So essentially what we're looking for is a team that's desperate for an infielder who we could dump him off to and then just kind of like take a guy in return that like maybe... like the longest shot imaginable. Like, it's a complete Hail Mary this guy would ever be a contender for us or a guy who can help us out. So I felt like the Marlins were a good option. Their usual shortstop is out with a torn rotator cuff, and they've been playing Christian Lopes at shortstop, and he has been bad. So they definitely could use a shortstop. So after I traded Didi to the Marlins, I went and changed his position to shortstop to guarantee that he'll play there for them. And then the Hail Mary, probably never going to do anything for us, but maybe possibly could be something we get in return is Lewis Brinson, one of, if not the worst, hitting outfielders of all time. Look at those stats in the major leagues. Just an absolutely pitiful OPS all 3 years that he was in the big leagues. Just, I mean, it's awful. It's not good at all. He's the guy we get in return, and that's the dump-off for Didi Gregorius. We get Brinson. We open up a spot in the infield. And then, of course, there was also the CPU team trades. You can take a look at those. I'm not going to go in-depth on every single one of them. Nothing too crazy happened, so I didn't bother messing with anything. I didn't feel like spending 2 hours trying to get the perfect CPU trade deadline, so that's what we got at the CPU trade deadline. If you don't like any of them, I mean, who cares? But we are now into early August, and before we hop into the next 2 games in the episode, let's take a look at what our new roster at the Major League level looks like. As far as the rotation and the bullpen goes, Bo Takahashi is up in the big leagues, as well as Hans Kraus. He is back up from AAA. Merrill Kelly is now in the bullpen. And then if the lineups against right-handed pitching and left-handed pitching goes, Joey Gallo's back from AAA. Josh Young got the call up. Yerman Mercedes is up. Daniel Robertson is back from his injury. Garrett Hampson is up for the time being. And then also Brandon Sanger is up as well. As we know, Gallo has been very bad for us in the major leagues, so he was down in AAA trying to get his mojo back, and he looked like he was getting his mojo back. It had an 863 OPS, 9 home runs, and 123 ABs in AAA, and he is also starting to turn things around in the big leagues. His OPS is up to 752 now, which is definitely not like the low 600s that it was, so that is very good to see, and hopefully Joey Gallo can actually be a productive player for us, because I would like him to do that. Josh Young is a guy who is not tearing things up at the AAA level, but he is up in the big leagues anyways, playing third base for us. And then there is Brandon Sanger, who is not the most highly touted guy, not the highest overall, obviously, but he can play a bunch of different positions, and he is raked at every level he's played at for us. He was in AA for a lot of this season, and the guy was just absolutely destroying AA pitching. So at one point I needed him to play a position in AAA, I called him up, and through 57 ABs in AAA, he was just absolutely destroying AAA pitching, so we decided to call him up at the trade deadline, and now he's going to be up in the big leagues for us. So Brandon Sanger, utility guy, is now with the big league club, and now let's hop into the games. Some post-deadline action as the Texas Rangers are playing host to the Tampa Bay Rays here at Globe Life Field, and the Brazilian-born right-hander Bo Takahashi making his second start at the big league level here for the Texas Rangers. And in the top half of the first inning, he would turn himself a double play. That's a 1-4-3 double play to end the inning, and it's scoreless. Marcus Walden, acquired at last year's deadline by the Rays from the Red Sox, on the hill for Tampa Bay. And in the bottom half of the first inning, it's Nick Solak getting things started off with a bang. This one's going to hit off the bottom of that left field wall, and Solak's got speed. He's rounding second, heading into third, and he's got those fleet feet with a leadoff triple to kick off the ball game. So he's in scoring position immediately, and then Michael Brousseau says, I can hit one as well. Left center field, high arcing. It's going to be in the left field seats. A 2-run shot for Michael Brousseau as he continues his tear with the Texas Rangers. It's a 2-0 ball game, but then Brandon Lau comes up and he hits one to deep right field. That's going to cut the lead in half. It's now a 2-1 ball game. Then later on in the inning, it's Joey Wendell up with 2 outs. He's going to smack one into left field. That's going to land in for a base knock, so he's on first base, keeping the inning alive. But then he would try to steal second base, and when are they going to learn? You can't run on Sam Huff. Guns down Wenzel, and that's the end of the inning. Move things on to the top of the fourth now. It's Austin Meadows drawing himself a walk, so he's on first base with 1 out. 2 outs now as it brings up Yoshi, and he proceeds to absolutely destroy a pitch to dead center field. This baby's gone. A 2-run shot as Yoshi gives the Rays a 3-2 lead in this ball game. We move things on to the bottom of the fourth, and Bryce Terang picking up his young pitcher as he's going to hit a wall scraper of a home run into right field. It ties the game at 3 off the bat of Bryce Terang, the non-power hitting shortstop. Merrill Kelly then came on in the top of the 8th for the Rangers, and with 2 outs, he would complete his 1-2-3 inning by getting a ground out to shortstop Terang. And we move things on to the top of the 9th. Merrill Kelly still on the hill, trying to get a second inning of work, but things did not go well for him. He walks Martinez, then some soft contact finds its way through for Meadows. So first and second, nobody out. Brings up Hunter Renfroe, cannot find the strike zone against him. Bases are juiced. Not a great performance in the second inning of work from Merrill Kelly. So Brett Martin comes on, trying to get out of the jam, and things did not go well for him either. Yoshi, line drive up the middle, that scores a run. Rays have a 4-3 lead now. Still nobody out. It's Adames at the dish. He's going to bloop one into right field, lands in for a hit. That's going to score another run. It's now a 5-3 lead for the Rays. Still nobody out. Next batter up is Lowe. He's going to ground one under the glove of the first baseman, Brosseau, and 2 runs are going to come in on that. It's now a 7-3 game. So first and second, nobody out. Pitch gets away from Huff, but he immediately picks it up, guns down Adames trying to advance. So it's runner on second with 1 out. Martin would complete the AB by getting Kiermaier to ground out the shortstop, so with 2 outs, Chirinos draws a walk, and Brett Martin's confidence is shattered, so Clayton Andrews comes on to try to close out the inning and move them on to giving their bats a chance. But Clayton Andrews could not close it out, giving no more runs as he gives up a bloop single here to Joey Wendell. It's now an 8-3 game, and then in the bottom of the 9th, Joey Gallo would hit a home run to dead center field. He's back in the big league, showing off that power stroke. A solo shot makes it an 8-4 game now, but it was just too little too late as then Sam Huff came to the plate, gets a pitch right down the middle, and he can't do anything with it, just flies it out to center field, and that is your ball game. It's an 8-4 victory for the Tampa Bay Rays over the Texas Rangers, thanks to a disastrous top of the 9th inning that just did not go well at all for the Texas Rangers ball club. Merrill Kelly gets the loss for that inning. Brandon Lau picks up player of the game honors for the Rays. He had that blast of a home run and also the 2-run bloop single in that top of the 9th inning in this 8-4 victory for Tampa Bay. Rangers still at home, playing host to an AL West foe, Oakland Athletics, here at Globe Life Field, and on the hill for the Rangers is Hans Kraus. Has had a rough time in the major leagues, but making his 14th start this season nonetheless. Frankie Montas would be opposing him, making his 25th start of the 2021 campaign. We'll start things off bottom half of the second inning. It's the future, Josh Young. He's going to smack one into right field off the bottom of the wall, an easy 2-bagger for the Texas Tech Red Raider. So he's in scoring position, as it's then going to be Isaiah Kiner-Falefa popping one up the right field. Piscotty's under it. And then Young, a very aggressive tag-up throw is offline, so it's going to be him on third base with 2 outs, as then Bryce Terang bloops one just barely fair down the right field line, and he uses speed to turn that into an RBI double. So it's a 1-0 lead for the Texas Rangers, as then Hans Kraus shows off some flashes of dominance, strikes out Laureano to end the top of the 3rd, and then at the top of the 4th he would strike out Matt Chapman with a up-and-in fastball as well. It gets called strike 3, but in the top of the 5th, things were a bit shaky. Austin Allen walks to lead off the inning. Next batter up, Stephen Piscotty also walks. So back-to-back bases on balls for the A's, and then Sheldon Noisy is going to bloop one into center field. They do not test the arm of Gallo in center, so it's bases loaded with 1 out. Brings up Ramon Laureano. He's going to bloop one into right field. That's going to score 1, and it's now a tie ball game. But then Kraus would get out of it as Semien grounds into a 6-4-3 double play to end the inning. So the score remains 1-1. Moving things on to the top of the 6th, where Nick Goody came on for the Rangers, and the first batter up is Matt Olson. Some soft contact, lands barely fair down the left field line against the shift. It's going to be a double for Olson, so he's on second base with nobody out. Chris Davis at the dish hits a line drive into right field. It's now runners on the corners for the A's, and then it brings up Matt Chapman, who hits a deep fly ball to center field. It's going to be caught at the track by Gallo. Olson will tag up to score as the A's take a 2-1 lead now. Merrill Kelly then came on to try to get out of the inning, and he would proceed to do so as he strikes out Allen on the down and away changeup, and then Stephen Piscotty comes up and gets the fastball blown by him. So 2 strikeouts for Kelly as he gets out of the jam. It's a 2-1 game. Solak at the dish in the top of the 6th hits a single, a line drive into left center field to kick off the inning. Next batter up was Ronald Guzman as a pitch to him gets in the dirt away from the catcher Allen, and Solak moves up into second base in scoring position. So then Ronald Guzman hits an absolute rocket into right center field. That's going to get down into the gap up against the wall. Solak easily scores. RBI double for Guzman ties the game at 2. And then Merrill Kelly on for a second inning of work. And I guess this guy's just not a multi-inning reliever as he gives up a double to Tony Kemp here with 1 out. So he's in scoring position. And then it will bring up Marcus Semien with 2 outs down to his last strike, and he's going to pull a ball down the left field line. That's going to score Kemp. It's now a 3-2 ball game with a runner on second base, and Matt Olson gets a cutter on his hands that he pulls into the seats. A 2-run blast for Matt Olson. It's now a 5-2 ball game, as that would pretty much wrap things up. The Rangers would tag on 1 more in a Michael Brosseau home run, but your final score in this game was 5-3 as the Oakland Athletics come away with the victory here in Texas. Matt Olson picks up Player of the Game honors as he had a home run and a double on the day. Those were his 2 hits. And then Michael Brosseau, like I said, was 2 for 2. He had the home run. Nick Solak was 3 for 5 on the day. He had 2 doubles. Ronald Guzman was 2 for 4. They just could not score enough runs to top the A's. 12 hits, only 3 runs, while the A's had 9 hits with 5 runs as Merrill Kelly gets another loss since coming over from the D-backs at the trade deadline. And with that being said, that's going to wrap things up here for this edition of the Texas Rangers franchise. I have been your host, Jerseyborn, and I am saying, it is me, the #1 hater of the 2K League.